Okay, thank you, Mr. Wee, for inviting, and distinguished judge and mentors and students. Good morning to you. Okay, uh, let me do a self-introduction first. I'm not as noble as Larry, promoting Singapore, so I will do my part. First of all, I have 4 officers. My HQ is still in Singapore, and we are Nota Design Group, and we have another 3 more officers in China. And a few years ago, I was told by a mentor that there's no champion for interior design in Singapore. That's why we are having a very weak position in Singapore compared to the architects. Even the facilities management people got the better of us with the built environment and things like that. So that spurred me to really, when I was given the driver's seat for Society of Interior Designers Singapore, I vow to change things. So hopefully after 4 years, there are some changes with some of our industry friends. Right, and similar to Nicholas is doing social work on a bigger scale, but I do it on a smaller one with my company as well. So we had a Nota cross collaboration unit called Nota Collaborative, and we promote a lot of friends from the industry, everything, in overseas cities. So this particular one is in Kunming, Yunnan. So I'm also the honorary president for their industry association. So we do a symposium on a monthly basis. So for the students, and we are developing the same thing for Hunan now, as well as Hangzhou and a few more, to help bring some of the less exposed designer to get exposed to a lot of big names in the industry without really traveling, but us bringing the speakers to them. So these are platform, and these are the schools that I'm the examiner and am visiting. Yep. Okay. These are the one that I was shaved off. Okay. For the students, you realize a lot of us do a lot of things. We are kind of like jack of all trades. But a lot of industry players, friends here, may or may not agree or disagree with me. These are the things that we do, but I think we can be jack of all trades, but we gotta be master to one, at least. So I'm a designer to start with. And I have a theory, a methodology that I do my design on, and I assure Nick that this is not bullshit. Okay, so imagine this as a picturesque scenery. You know, in Chinese it's called 蓝天白云青山绿水. You know, so very nice scenery. So how do we inject the architecture? But I'm not talking about architecture today. I'm talking about interior. So imagine this in an interior setup. So injecting architecture. And this sets of things, in fact, a few universities are currently in a talk with us to have this into their university courses as one of the module. So I just run through in a quick sense. Okay, look at the picture. So I'm not trying to do 101 now, the injecting architecture. I'm just running through so that everyone get a big picture of what we are going to talk about when we go to the project. So looking at these two, one is a parasitic move whereby the fish and the entrepot is actually eating away the tongue of the fish, so killing it in the process. And rhino and the oxpecker, and it's actually oxpecker is cleaning up the hygiene of the rhino. So from parasitism to parasitism. So this is the direction that we're moving. Okay, and these are the method how forms are created from birth, from surface and project. So these are the quick slides because I won't go into detail. Okay, So introduction of elements into a given space, so that's giving birth, and then formulation of elements using existing surface within a given surface. So these are all looking from an interior perspective. And of course, the formulation element through interplay of lights within a given space. Okay, and then these are the one that we commonly exposed to: forms and volumes and planes. Yep, and these are different transparency. I don't know whether this will bore the professional, but actually I'm using student as target because AYDA is for the U, right? So do bear with me. Okay, then there are the different kind of they are in intersection, adjacent, in series, stack, dissect, intertwine, and so on. So these are all different methods, and it's still expanding. And these are the types of injection method. Okay, through intrusion, through division, through complementary, through sculptural form, and through fragmentation, and so on. Okay, I'm going to the case study because I have very limited time here. So normally my lecture is 1.5 hours to 2, so yeah. Okay, the case study, we have 4 sizes to choose from. Let's go to the Excel. Okay, this is one of the Hunan Museum that we did. We are proposing at this moment. So this is in Changsha, Hunan Art Museum, in fact. Okay, so if you look at the plan here, the 4 square boxes, those are the exhibition center. So in traditional sense, when people look at exhibition design, they're looking at how you display certain things. So in fact, even in interior design, a lot of us don't consider that as part of interior because it's more content generation, right? So these few years, we have been working with another listed company as our partner to try to change certain things in China. So in this particular case, we are getting not just the exhibition work as a commission, we are getting the whole interior spaces, including the public spaces, the common spaces, so we integrate everything as one single unit, as one single thought process, rather than to just do them as individual segments. Okay, so for this, in short, these are the cut-off plan. There are 4 stories to this, so this is just the ground floor. And we can see from the central atrium, those are the skylight area. So what we did is, in China, the unfortunate thing is that when it's awarded to a lot of local, in China it's called Shijiyuan, which is the architecture firm, a lot of them have to rush through the project. So not a lot of thoughts are given, and a lot of things are left for the interior to actually solve the issue, right? And this is the existing form that was created, and it was quite ugly according to the government. So what we have to do is we got to do everything else, and the architect do have a proposal for this, but it's not satisfactory. So we take on the whole thing, and in China the thing is they have to tell you one thing, like you have to understand how Chinese work. So in China it's called 国情. So how the government react, how the government work, and how things are selected. And then a lot of this 国情 also involve some sentiment with what? With culture. So Hunan is one of the richest province that are propagating culture, Chinese culture, and it's called Huxiang Wenhua. And in fact, the whole China is populated with a lot of Hunan exports, and they're very proud of it. So every project that we've gone through in Hunan itself, we have to go through the same process. So all these are the Chinese element, not because I love Chinese element, but I think as designer, we have to learn to adopt, and we have to regionalize to the project that we are doing, not just impose on what we like. So in this case, I think we have to put on some of these Chinese elements, but I won't go into detail. So these are, in short, the picture. Those are the Dougong system. So what we did is we reversed, because this is an art museum, right? So instead of Dougong, actually is supported by the columns, and then the Dougong system, and then the rafters, but we work in the reverse manner, so that the roof itself, the structure is holding on to the Dougong, and then to the columns. But these columns now becomes the light channel, or the straws for skylight into the hall itself, rather than the column supporting the whole entire structure. So in art museum, we are allowed to really reinvent things. So that was our explanation. So here, as we are injecting some of the elements into a very big empty spaces. So there are few elements here. This is actually about nature. So the rocks and then the escalator, we have to wrap it with copper. And then the other side, the wall itself is a glass wall. So those are supposed to be opaque wall that's supposed to block the front of the entry. So we use elements to describe them, and then so that they have meaning intertwining with each other. So from here I think it's more obvious. So the two walls that we have on the front and then the side, we wrap it up with glass. So these are to represent the mountains. And then the escalator is another element. So these are about families, how the families coincide in the environment, in the interior environment. And also for museum, right? Whether it's museum, exhibition center, like our URA center and so on. So these are the ones that are in abundance in China now. So a lot of these are created for the VIPs. Who are the VIPs? The VIPs are the government. So a lot of these are activated only on few times a year. So it's unfair because these exhibition centers are free for citizens. So in fact, a lot of people are going there seeing the date form of the exhibit because the LED is not on, nothing is activated, the 3D mapping is not on, and only on occasion these are things that are on. So what we did is we proposed to the government on many of our projects that whether the project in its date form, and the live form is still nice, because in the date form it will look like a nice sculpture that was created as a space, and then in the live form, these are the LED that we were asked to fit in. Okay, we have also implemented a lot of new stuff into museum space, because in architecture or even in ID we realize museum is almost a dead space, because these are space that doesn't generate incomes, and eventually they have to be renewed in terms of their function. So at this stage where the government is still pumping a lot of money into public spaces like this, we move them ahead and increase the value of the space by implementing a lot of commercial elements into the space itself. Okay, so these are the one that was sits in the public space, and they are modular. So most of the units has different function. The one with the glass, these are the display for their cultural items or cultural extension item. So these can be products, designer products, and things that are related to the exhibit itself. And then there are the brochure slot for the advertisement and things like that. And then there are the seats for people to rest. So these are public furniture. So we don't need to implement something that are foreign to the space. And this work in conjunction with the whole hall to become a installation itself when they are not inactive. Okay, then another thing is we are asked to put in elements, that are really boring for Hunan, like in this is called Jihua, that means chrysanthemum stone, and then there are the xiangxiu, which is the embroidery and things like that. So I said, when all these things get into the space, it's going to be disastrous. So what we did is we reinvent the whole thing into a more abstract form. So we created mosaic that reflects the elements, and they are still visible, to the public, and it doesn't take away the meaning, but in a more aesthetically pleasing method. Okay, so these are the outer shell and the inner skin that we created for all the exhibit wall. So these walls, when on top, we see that when it's in its dead form, they are still sculptural, and this represents the crowd, among the artists. So we are promoting all the artists as God, displaying their items in this whole area. So that was the storytelling behind. And below we see that this is when it's active, when the 3D mappings are out. So whether there are a lot of VIPs coming to this hall in a year or not, the public gets to enjoy a full, good aesthetic. Okay, so these are the other walls. And the crowd actually extend from the wall itself to the balcony. Yeah, so we take away all the glass railing, and all these are intertwining families of elements coming together. So this is looking at the entrance. Okay, even for one of the absurd demand from the client, which is one of the city mayor, asking us to have some cultural elements at the entrance. So we have a dragon wrap column. Can you imagine if we were to really put that in the space? So what we did is we do 2 layers. So we had the inner layer with the silhouette of the dragon column and with an outer shell that reflects our language, our architecture, our interior architecture language on the outside. So those are opaque glass that changes its opacity or translucency with lighting. So you'll see only the silhouette, and there's also gap in between. So you could actually see through to see the dragon column without actually having the dragon column there. Okay, so these are the light. So this is the front where we see the column before the light got lit up. Okay, to the exhibition hall itself, we changed some of the function as well, because I always believe in functional aesthetic rather than to do decorative aesthetic. So in this sense, you look at the wall itself, these walls are all movable, because art museum, we are thinking, what can we do to an art museum? You just need few walls to hang whatever you need to hang, right? And then get the column, get the channel there for the installation. But we don't want to do it in a very conventional way, and we realize there are also some issue with art museum. Like for example, if we hang an art piece vertically, your frame would have tilted the thing anyway, no matter which part of the artwork you are hanging from. So what we realize is lighting is an issue. Secondly, is a viewing point and distance is an issue. So we change some of the angle. So none of these are more than 4 degrees, but because of the change in angle, it articulate the whole hall, in a different way. And these are all in standard modular width. So, and they are all on caster and 1 meter thick. So means that all this wall panel can be shifted to the center and to change configuration as we want to. And the ceiling wise, we have a common ceiling that runs through the whole hall as articulation to the ceiling, but not just as aesthetic, because those light in between the ceiling board itself are the general lighting, and then we have the track light on each to focus on the artwork, the ever-changing artwork. So these are from a different view. And then we have the whole set created for the whole set of public furniture created to coincide with the wall panel as well. Okay, and then we created the store as well. This is not the luncheon meat ham. This is Hunan Art Museum, so it's called ham. So the ham store. We use the same concept as well, but in a more different way, in a more commercial way. So this is the entrance to the bookstore and the gift store. And we also changes some of the perspective of the government's traditional thinking that you gotta be a miniature of what you are exhibiting. But we said no. I mean, this has to be reinvented by another group of designers. In coincide with your exhibit. So these are stores that will sell modern stuff, that relates to the exhibit. So we are using sculpture and painting, the two traditional form, and abstract them into a space whereby the flowy line represent the painting, and then the angular form represent the sculpture. So those forms the shelf itself. Okay, next we have the large. Okay, this one is interesting because in China there's a lot of material stores, so they sell material, and they are very big. And in fact, these are material city. Each have their own frontage, and a lot of them has not invested on the facade, on the look. They are thinking, if we are selling stone, let's have them all lay out, and then if we are selling timber board, let's have them all lay out on the wall as well. So when the client came to us, this was a project done almost 9 years ago. So we kind of reinvent the scene. This is in Kunming itself, and it started from here. Everyone started to do up the facade of a material store. So nobody thinks that we need to invest this kind of money to raise our profile, but because of the rising competition, so we have to. Okay, this is a 2-story. This is about 2,000 square meter. So they are selling wood item. So they started from floor wood flooring, and then we extend the products to other wood-related products as well, including furniture, including wooden door, and so on. So these are all very boring stuff, right? So we're thinking how do we really display them in an aesthetical way, you know, to attract customers to come in as an experience center. So these are the first floor. We can see from the all these are the ribbon system that we created for them to channel people to the respective the show flat, or rather the showrooms itself. Okay, so these are the second story going up, still leading to all these pockets. So these are the things that how we lay out the timber flooring itself, because timber flooring can be quite boring because they are just different shades of wood tone and things like that. And we also articulate the whole facade as well. A lot of the competitor didn't believe in that until we do it and materialize it. So in fact, less is more in this case. So we tell the client that, you know, no matter if you want to compare colors or size, scale, or even your logo sizes, you know, you will never beat your competitors. Someone will be bigger. So I say, let's go less. Let's go to the minimum. So we use one material. And because the product stands for sustainability, so what we did is we used recycled old wood. And these are just pine, but some are more than 30 years old, 20 years old, you know. So we got it from market to do up the facade. So we use articulation by layering the facade itself. Okay, so these are the other sides. So we've chosen the corner for them. Okay, in short, these are the exploded views, so we can see the ribbon system inside, and then the outer shell and the inner skin. Okay, so this is not what I designed. This is what was there. So this is how it looks like in all this material center. It's just metal sheets, you know, covering the facade. So a lot of people will just cover the metal sheets with big logo and put a glass door there, and that's it. That would be a material showroom. So we are lucky because we got this side. This is the entry to Songming. Songming is 1 hour from Kunming, the capital city of Yunnan. So this now become the landmark of Songming because it's next to the entrance of the city. Okay, so these are still perspective. Okay, so we carried what was from outside language to the inside. So for us, because we have architecture background, so somehow we are able to relate, but I'm trying to translate this to the interior design student as well, to really understand the kind of language they were using, and then eventually seeping through to the very last detail. So like, for example, if you are inside this space, right, you will not mistake the furniture for sale and the furniture that are part of the building itself. So these are all inner components. So as my explanation, my story for this is very simple. So the carving started from outside all the way to the inside. So these are the internal carving. In Chinese, it's called Nei Diao. That means have you seen great jade carving, right? With the outside carve and with the internal carve out from the outside. So these are the example. Okay, so these are during construction, and this is when it's done. So we use recycled wood so that it's already old. So it only ages nicely with time rather than to go, to become used. So these are from the outside. So we have, in fact, from here, we could see there are at least 5 different modules to the same material. But eventually we realized this is too expensive, and for our next following project, we actually have just 2 modules, just in terms of length and how we place the wood. Okay, so these are the internal ribbon system that we use to exhibit the different floor materials. So in traditional sense, this would have been all laid out on the wall, on panels, you know. So in fact, this started a wave for the material market in that area. So a lot of people started to revamp their showroom into experience center. So we are in fact one of the first to pioneer this almost 9 to 10 years ago in Yunnan. So this is the second one, but a quick look. This is the one that we use 2 modules. This 1 year later after that project in Kunming itself, in their flagship store. So we use less modules. So now it's just a horizontal module and your vertical module, which is thinner, to create the outer shell and the inner skin. And our story to the owner of this sort is that, you you have to reinvent every of your store rather than to duplicate like McDonald's or Starbucks, because you are not international brand. As long as you are still within the province, you are a new brand, even though you are 20 years old, because you have not stepped out of your comfort zone, so nobody knows you. So we told them the only way is to exhibit, or rather to propagate yourself, is not through the logo, it's not through how big the size of your logo, but it's through the outer form itself and the whole space experience that will give people that memory of your brand. So you need to evolve from one flagship to another. But of course, I think to us it's good because we get more fees, right? But we tell them that this will last you at least 2 years, 3 years, because you have to build up the rapport and you have to build up the memory for your consumer. Okay, so these are the interior. All right, next one, M size. Okay, this one is a hotel, or in fact, it's a cabin hotel in Pingjiang. Pingjiang is about 1 hour from Changsha, which is the capital city of Hunan. Okay, this is a celebrity show. Those who watch Chinese drama would know her. She's a very famous Chinese actress. So they are doing a charity program. So people like Jackie Chan and herself and a whole loads of very famous celebrity, they'll go to different remote places and pick the things that they like, the architecture, the spaces that they like, and then they do a short documentary and try to raise funds. So in this case, this is Yang Mi, one of the very famous actress in the Chinese-speaking world now. Yeah. So she was saying, wow, in this mountainous area, we can find a building like this, So that was what she was saying. Okay, this in fact is these are all villages. In fact, for people who knows, these are villages that was really so remote that nobody really goes there, So, and these are cultivation, rice plantation, and then this is a hill. This hill is for them to dry the crops. So these are actually utility land. So the only area that we can touch, I was given only this hill and this road coming in, so we are not supposed to touch the plantation. So the owner started by approaching me to do a tea house. He said, oh, we have another 3 more hotel groups in the area, so just do a tea house. I said, no, every time that I come here, I don't have a room. I said, you don't have enough rooms for your whole hotel group. So I said, I can develop hotel on this land. But he didn't believe me. He said, no, I think it's too small. So in the end, we tried. So this is the road going in. So it's a narrow road. I turn it into a common building as well, for what we call the public building. And this encompasses the toilet, the small restaurant, and then the walkway towards the lodge up there. So these are all in a different facing because each of the scenery are different. There are different laws right in front and things like that. So also because of the psychological effect, by tilting the angle of each cabin, right, we give the owner, or rather the end user of each lodge, a sense of privacy, an extra sense of security as well. Okay, this is from the section that we can see. So the whole agenda of this is to touch the land lightly and not to destroy what is already there, because we realize a lot of resort nowadays, they are just building 4 walls in a very nice scenery. So it's destroyed. You are not engaging whatever that's out there. So my proposal to them, of course, is to be with the nature, but protected at the same time. So like, for example, this public area, right? This public building, we have 3 sections. So these are like the traditional, it's covered, but it's open at the same time. So these are all 3 different sections coming together to form a sheltered entity. Yep, from the top. And because of the proximity, right, we are able to provide lighting, through the building itself, through the cabin itself, through the surrounding common area, the walkways and things like that. We don't need any extra lighting in between. So these are all self-lit cabin. And the public building itself is the same because these are all glass covered. So these are restaurants that you can be sitting in when it's raining or even during winter. Okay, so this is from the inside. So we are trying to create a total open experience, even from the shower, and beyond the shower, there's another, at least a 1 meter landscape area on the other side of the shower. And then these are all looking through the bedroom and to the scenery in front. Okay, so this looking from the front, and the beds are all separatable, so they can be the master, big king size, or we can split it into two because there are only 8 cabins there. Yeah, so these are another side of the toilet where we are exposed to nature, and we use a double layer louver system so that you could have the daylight, sunlight coming in without sacrificing the privacy from above. Okay, so these are the public building site. So these are a walk around of the public building, and we redesigned the whole logo because the building footprint is so small, right? So we have the logo so that it can be viewed from at least few kilometers apart. Okay, so these are the cabin. So this during construction. It will be ready by this month, and already we are booked for 2 of the movie production. They are going to use this as one of their backdrop. So this from the top looking down. So this building in fact is normally for normal architecture we have at least 4 side exposed, right? So the roof, now people are emphasizing on the 5th dimension as well. But this one is almost 6 sides complete. So from the lower cabin, the bottom of the building has to be completed as well. So in fact, there are no exposed area that are untreated. They are left untreated. So these are from the different angle we are looking. So it's very tight. You can see from the 2 cabins. So these are the common side, but the windows are all front facing. Side are just for ventilation. Okay, lastly to the small. Okay, this one is in Orchard Central, but this was done 11 years ago or 12 years ago. So this is no longer there. In case you want to check it out, it's gone. So this was by one of the subsidiary by Singapore Airlines, so SIA subsidiary to venture into the F&B. So this is called the Jewels Artisan Chocolate. So what they want to do is to sell very expensive chocolate. They're more expensive than the coffee itself. So thinking, how do we sell this and how to market this in the first place? So what we did is we reinvent the space for them. But again, we are given a site that's trapped in between. So this is a floor plan. Behind here is a toilet. These are all alleyway. Toilet, 2 F&B beside, and then the escalator up and down from here. So we are trapped in between. So 11 or 12 years ago, we were given this brief. I think they are still quite strict with the facility management. We are asked to just wall it up with glass. They say, if you want transparency, that's all you do. But we are not happy. We say, we want to do something different, and we need this to not have a frontage, but to make it all overall sculpture sitting right in the middle of this Orchard Central. So that's what we did, and we created the opaque side, which happens to be the kitchen, and then these are the exposed side, which are the seating. They are facing the escalator, and then we have the side, which have a showcase. So we don't want the exact front, where is the front, where's the back. So in fact, the toilet side, we managed to use the kitchen to cover up, using a half rock formation. So we need to possess, lands are rental is very expensive in Singapore. So what we did is we're also not willing to sacrifice any inch that it belongs to us. So by not having the glass wall, we need to have something to repossess the space again. So the roof is what we did. So we had a roof over our existing one to cover our boundary from airspace itself. Okay, so these are the sculpture that we did as an extension to the big rock behind, which is the kitchen, to display installation art created by the very expensive chocolates. So this is the back facing the toilet. So you can see from the boundary, this is our boundary. So it's still very clear where the public area is and where the store area is. Okay, last slide. Now the new things that we are doing at this point is also to inject new form of art into spaces. So this is a recent interview done by our national channel to my home. So this is my home actually, to demonstrate how we inject the art, or rather I divide them into three forms of art. In fact, the art we're talking about are traditional art, right? So like paintings, like sculpture, so these are the traditional art. So I give them a new layer. So in fact, it was defined into three forms of art. So now we have the traditional art and then the new art. So the new art are things from, prints to even art toy, design toy, even up to the things that can be multiplied or designer items. So we want to propagate for original items to enter the house now. So a lot of us are very familiar with IP of other stuff, but not with the decorative pieces in the house. So what we are doing now is to want to propagate that and also to collaborate with artists, with original artwork and designers. So in fact, a lot of art is done by designers now to enter the house to replace our traditional cheap decoration. And that will be the new form that we are trying to push for this moment.
在居住环境摆放独特的艺术品呢，可以美化空间，也可以展示个性。然而呢，花了一笔钱购买符合心意的作品，又要如何在家里摆放才能够展现出艺术品的魅力呢？接下来呢，我们去走访一名专业的室内设计师，让他以自己的住家为例，介绍艺术品能够怎样在室内发挥作用，以及家居艺术摆设的基本诀窍。
有客来访，家里有一件适当的艺术品，多少会凸显主人家的品味。每个家居都是一个个人天堂，室内设计师王胜杰的家也不例外。
我觉得第一，先以整体设计为主。艺术品呢，我们也不把它当成是装饰品，但是当成就是整个空间里面的一个结合体，但它是最后一个环节，以装置或者是以那个艺术品为主。 来设计某个空间。
Please excuse the LG logo at the bottom of the TV. I'm not doing promotion for them.
然后那个呢，就是先把空间设计好。设计呢，其实讲求是功能跟视觉感都要结合，所以讲求的是平衡。 很多画我都会给到他。
This is a 60 years old house, so we recycled some of the stuff, even from our timber raft, the ex-timber support and rafters. We recycle them into the fencing.
那个就代替了床头背板的功能。
在家里摆放艺术品，虽然比在公共场所容易保护。
So this is to show how we integrate some of the art into spaces, and then we try to push them towards the new art region as well to open up a market, a much bigger market, in this current situation.
通过房间或者是通过一个空间营造的灯光，因为灯光像黑洛珍跟那个荧光灯，这些对表面的损害是非常大的，它的颜色会慢慢退化。
王胜杰说，现在的室内设计趋势强调个性化，所以设计师都会考虑屋主的个人品味。设计师一般会把艺术品分成3大类：传统艺术品、新兴艺术品和自制艺术品。
So 3 types of art: the traditional art. Okay. Lastly, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. Creativity is kind of is a kind of exploration. Every step ahead is a new experience. Thank you.